to all the teachers in far-flung places of the world. So when I took it over, I took on that heritage and decided to keep it going. For the first 4 or 5 years, I was able to do that, and then realised that model wasn't working, and not just the articles themselves, but the subscription model, the business model, everything. It was sending me broke. So I closed it down and decided I don't think I can do this anymore. I certainly can't afford it, and that's where Direction went on pause, if you like, for a couple of years, and then I discovered all kinds of different ways of using. At that point, I had a little iMac, which was, the little green iMacs. They had about 6 gig of memory, and I was running Direction on that thing, and I had email, but it was pretty basic. So once all that got sort of tossed away, I came back to the whole idea a couple of years later with a new iMac, and newer technology, and the internet had come that much further, and you could outsource a bit more, and thought, wow, you know what, I can do this now. It's very possible to run this business by myself, and that's what we've been doing since. I've been changing the editorial angle gradually in an attempt to not alienate long-time subscribers, but also in an attempt to make the journal more readable by the general public, more usable by Alexander teachers to reach the general public. Because the way it had been written in the past, it was very, very deep, very introspective, very all about Alexander technique and me, Alexander technique and how I teach it, and Alexander. And the general public, we're never going to be able to read that and think, what the heck are they talking about? So what I've been doing since we began production again in 2009, is writing articles that are readable, understandable, and usable by Alexander teachers to reach the general public, so that they can understand, well, how does Alexander technique apply to golf or tennis? Or what about with teaching children? How do I teach children the Alexander technique? I did an issue on teaching children. It's the most recent issue that we did, because I wanted Alexander technique teachers, as well as myself, to learn more about how to reach into schools, reach that generation where personally I think if we don't reach the children, Alexander is going to remain pushed further and further out into the fringes, because of the competition there is in the market for all kinds of remedies, all kinds of modalities, all kinds of new inventions every day of the week. And I seriously think that reaching the children in simple ways that teachers in England and even in Israel, one of the gentlemen I interviewed, they are reaching children in ways that any Alexander technique teacher can do. And so that's what I brought into that latest Direction issue, was methods and proof and testimony and stories, so that Alexander teachers primarily could read it and say, oh, well, I could do that. I might give that a try. And written in such a way that you can give that magazine to the school principal or the school teacher or even the piano teacher that you take your children to. They can read it and go, wow, this is really interesting. I don't understand completely how the Alexander technique works, but I can understand that it is working. I might give that person a call. I might find out more about that for myself. So Direction Journal, which is what we're still calling it, is probably more these days Direction Magazine, because it's less formal, it's less heavy. I'm leaving the heavy stuff for the societies to do, and they've got plenty of heavies in there to toe that line, and we're trying to open it up a little bit more with the Direction Journal. So I don't know if that answers your question, but it kind of throws all kinds of ideas at you about what Direction is. Yeah.
So I've asked the main questions on my mind. Is there anything you'd like to talk about that I have not asked you?
Mm. Well, I think the main thing that I find myself talking about and wanting to talk about are the success stories. When I was at the Congress at Lugano just recently, I found, I talked to many, many, many people, and I wanted to know what their story was. Are you teaching full time? Oh, no, I'm not. Oh, yes, I am. Oh, really? What do you do? There are Alexander teachers in the world that are doing extremely well. Amazing things. One lady I met just by chance in the work exchange room is the Alexander teacher for the UN in I think it's Italy. She's got 5,000 people that are in that workforce. 5,000 people, and she is the Alexander technique teacher there. And I just boggles my mind. I mean, not every teacher can do that, I suppose, but this lady doesn't strike me as the sort of teacher that I am, where I'm out there, happy to promote. She's a very quiet, softly spoken lady, just doing her job in the background. Perfect job for, I think, the majority of Alexander teachers that want to work full time. And then there's the lady that works for Victorinox in Switzerland, who has upwards of 900 to 1,000 people on the staff, and that's her full-time job. Well, full-time, I guess not full-time, she only does like 1 or 2 days a week with them, but has created the potential for full-time work there. At some point during her career, she has worked full-time. And it's these stories, Luke, of successful teachers that I'm endeavouring to get out to the wider population of Alexander teachers, to show them that it's possible to work full-time. May not necessarily mean working from the security and comfort of your own home studio, but not just that it's possible, but this is how it's done, and this is how you could do it. Because it isn't rocket science. I've interviewed Michael Gelb a couple of times in the past, and it's a little bit daunting, because this man just has so much charisma, so much personality oozing out of him, that an Alexander teacher meets him and says, well, I'm not like that. And it's true. Most of us, if not all of us, aren't like that. He's an amazing man. But there are the quietly spoken Alexander teachers that are working in the back rooms of big corporations, doing amazing job. I don't know even half of them, but my conversations, the ones that I enjoy the most, Luke, are the ones with people that are doing well. Malcolm Bulk, the running, Stephen Shaw's with swimming, and it goes on. There's many, I can't even list them, but they're the conversations I enjoy the most, because I feel as though, there is hope. There's hope. Yeah. People are doing it, and they're doing it in very, very doable ways. It's not big budget stuff, not great big advertising budgets and all that kind of thing. So, if we can share those conversations more, then that's what I'm all for. Is empowering Alexander teachers to do more for the world. Because I think without our influence on education, on movement, on consciousness, without our influence, I think I can't see any other modality in the world that can do what we can do in a moment, in a matter of a couple of minutes. And Rachel Zahn in Europe is attempting to bring Alexander technique to the consciousness science. If she manages to pull that off, and her story is phenomenal, you've got to interview that lady. If she pulls that off, then it might come from the top down. But I think my way is from grassroots, is to meet the people at the ground level and spread the word gradually through them, as these other teachers have done. So if ever you want a conversation on the best ways and